All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday, and I hope you've all had a good week. I'm Adam with LAHC, and I'm excited to announce that today marks the beginning of our Botvin Life Skills Winter Series. So, throughout the next 10 weeks or so, I'll be talking about a host of different life skills related topics, ranging from things like decision making and goal setting to things like drug awareness and managing emotions. So a lot of this stuff is going to be very informative, and hopefully it'll be very eye-opening for you. So let's go ahead and begin. Today's lesson is going to be centered around the value of good health. Now, to start us off, I'd like for you to think about this following question for a second. Do you consider yourself to be a healthy person? So what are some things that you do on a daily basis that may be helping you or helping you build your health? And then alternatively, what are some things that you do that may be harming or even damaging to your health? It's really important that we do this kind of self-analysis every now and then. And this way, we know what we need to do to better ourselves, whether it's physically, mentally, or socially. Of course, never beat yourself up for not being as healthy as you want to be, but you also don't want to allow yourself to make unhealthy decisions, especially if these decisions are starting to, or they've already started to take a toll on your overall well-being. So now we're going to go through a small list of different behaviors, and we're going to talk about which of these behaviors are healthy and which of these are unhealthy. So right off the bat, reading the first couple ones, it's pretty easy to tell which of these are healthy and which of these aren't. So when we talk about playing sports or running, these are relatively healthy. Now, of course, you want to take into account that you have to stretch and you have to stay hydrated to avoid injuring yourself. But generally, things like exercise and playing sports can help you build endurance, improve your health, and it can even create a team building ethic for you if you're playing sports with a team. So I think that all constitutes as healthy. Now, if we're looking at the same list, let's go over some of the negative kind of things or the unhealthy kind of things, like having a negative attitude or smoking cigarettes, bottling up emotions, or not wearing a seatbelt. We can tell that these behaviors in one way or another can take a toll on our health. And let's not forget the potential danger that can be associated with things like smoking cigarettes or not wearing your seatbelt. So a pretty big part of being healthy involves stopping something bad or unhealthy from happening. So this is what we call prevention. And we do this when we're brushing our teeth twice a day, or when we get enough sleep. So things like brushing our teeth can help us prevent cavities, nasty mouth diseases, and things like getting enough sleep can prevent a whole host of mental and physical distress or diseases. So I've highlighted the unhealthy behaviors in red and the healthy behaviors in blue. Now, one of these might be sticking out to you, and that's multitasking. So you might be asking yourself, why is this green? So sometimes a behavior that can be useful and relatively harmless can get out of hand and become unmanageable. So this is when it usually can cross into unhealthy territory. Things like multitasking are good when you know your limits, but you want to avoid overwhelming yourself or putting too much on your plate, because that could take a toll on your health. Now, what is health exactly? I mean, we all kind of have an idea of what health is, but what does it really mean? So the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not just the absence of disease or infirmity or weakness. Our mental health is so important because it directly affects our attitude towards our life, our reaction to people and situations and things. And this can have a direct effect on our physical well-being and our quality of life. Alternatively, our physical health is also very important because it can have a direct effect on our quality of life and our mental health. So these systems are tied together in this kind of never-ending dance. And it's very important to make sure that we're managing both of them, our physical and mental health. We do this by taking care of our overall health while preventing ourselves from doing something that could be unhealthy or could negatively affect this dance or this balance. It's also very important to note that just because a person looks healthy, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are. They may be struggling with a mental illness or an addiction or any other disease that just doesn't manifest on the surface or doesn't show on the surface. There's a saying that I like that goes, "You never know what someone is dealing with, so try your best to always be nice." Unfortunately, not everyone that we meet is going to be nice, but we have total control over how we react to that. So if you decide you'd rather be nice in that situation, this is going to bring you closer to a healthier mindset, which will create a healthier and happier life for you. So now we'll run through a couple of questions that have to do about health, and I want you to try to think of at least 3 or so answers for each question. Obviously, we're going to walk through each one, but I want you to try to guess first and try to show yourself really how well you know about health. So our first question is, what are some things people do to protect or improve their health? So when we're talking about protecting our health, we don't just mean eating and doing healthy things. This also involves prevention, right? Protecting or shielding our health from unhealthy behaviors or people or situations that can harm it. There are a couple things that people can do to protect their health. Obviously, this list is not extensive, but it does cover some of what I think are important points. Things like establishing healthy eating habits, sleeping enough, managing your time and money wisely, and considering the possible risks when we do something that could affect our mental or physical state. Managing stress is very important. Because stress itself can have a damaging effect on both our physical and our mental well-being. So the best way to manage stress is to do things like breathing exercises. Breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold that for 5 seconds, and you breathe out for 5 seconds. Meditation and yoga are a great way to improve both physical and mental health. Exercising as well. And then learning to say no goes in hand with asserting yourself, which is going to help you kind of avoid situations like peer pressure or somebody trying to get you to do something you don't want to do. These are all going to play a very significant role in protecting your health. Good money and time management is so important. When we develop skills like this, it's just going to make the path for our life a lot easier. If you don't know how to manage your time or money, life can very quickly become exhausting and difficult to maintain. And then you end up dealing with things like living paycheck to paycheck or missing important days or tasks. And these can all happen as a result of poorly managing our time and money. And lastly, it's really important to think about both positive and negative consequences whenever you consider taking any kind of risk. So our next question is, what do people do to put their health at risk? Well, it's quite a bit. I mean, we're human, and so we're naturally curious about everything, and sometimes we might make foolish mistakes as a result. And these are mistakes that are completely avoidable, but we tend to do these things because we might not be that aware of the risks, or maybe we just don't care. So as dangerous and as destructive as things like drugs and alcohol are, people still do them because they either don't know any better or they really don't care about the risks. And so this is why I think this lesson is very important, because it could help you avoid situations where you might do something harmful because you don't really know how it'll affect you. Things like poor nutrition, poor physical health, and bottling up our emotions, especially stressful emotions or emotions relating to stress, these can all compromise and hurt our physical and mental health. And this will usually get us to a place where we just don't really care about the risks. So obviously this doesn't really mean that there's no longer a risk. So it's really important that we pay attention to how we're feeling in that moment. Also, avoiding reckless behaviors like not wearing a seatbelt or driving recklessly or getting into fights. This can help you avoid, completely avoidable damage to your health or to your personal property. But if you do engage in these things, they can put you at great risk. Our third question: why do people engage in behaviors that put their health at risk? So a lot of times when we do something that's risky, we don't necessarily know how risky or dangerous it is. Like I said, humans are naturally curious about everything. So I think it's really important that we learn how to be cautiously curious. Now, another reason for engaging in risky behaviors is the person just doesn't care about the risk or how it's going to affect them. So when we struggle with things like depression or anxiety, mostly depression, we become apathetic, and this means that we stop showing enthusiasm or interest or concern over things. So you no longer think things like, oh, if I smoke this cigarette, it's going to damage my lungs, or if I drink right now and I drove here, how am I going to get home safely? Now, another reason could be that the risky behavior that we're about to do seems fun or exciting. Maybe you probably get an adrenaline rush just thinking about it. So usually our body will trigger an adrenaline rush when we're either excited or scared. And we're not usually very conscious of whether we're excited about something or scared of it. So we could mistake our fear of something for a rush and end up doing something that we know we shouldn't have done. But if we're not really paying attention to that, we can't really see that. So this is why things like breathing exercises, like I said before, breathing in for 5 seconds, holding that in for 5 seconds, and exhaling for 5 seconds can be very helpful because it helps slow you down enough so that you're able to pay attention in the present moment and able to make the right choice. And then there's those of us who want that attention from our friends or peers. Now, this is what we would call peer pressure. And this happens all the time, not just when you're in middle or high school, but all throughout your life you'll deal with peer pressure. And so it's important to know when you're being pressured to do something dangerous or maybe something that you don't want to do. And also, as a side note, if your friends are really good friends, they'll probably give you validation for good things or healthy things that you do. Friends who are giving you validation for doing risky or dangerous or even dumb things, these aren't friends who care about you. And lastly, some people hold the mindset of, oh, this will never happen to me. Now, as someone who's worked with people struggling with addiction, I wasn't really surprised when most of them would tell me things like, I thought I would never get addicted. Or somebody who's gotten in legal trouble immediately after thinking, oh, I'll never get in any trouble with the police. These kind of things happen. And it's okay to be confident in our abilities, but it's not good to be overly confident when our health is at stake. And things can go terribly wrong in a surprisingly short amount of time. And so our last question, the most important question, is what are some benefits to taking care of our health? Basically, what's in it for me? So I learned a long time ago that my body will treat me exactly how I treat it. If I was to eat at McDonald's or Burger King for a couple days and not really exercise, I feel absolutely terrible. Even getting out of bed becomes like a terrible experience. But then I'd find if I'm eating healthy and regularly exercising and just generally taking care of my health, I feel this increase in energy that just seems to come out of nowhere. And so when I say your body will treat you how you treat it, this isn't just an inspirational quote I'm trying to push on you. There's scientific evidence that the more you take care of your health, the better you will feel. And alternatively, the more you engage in unhealthy or risky behaviors, the worse you're going to feel. So increased energy, increased self-esteem and confidence, when we increase these as a result of practicing healthy behaviors, this can increase our satisfaction with life. You become this happy, energetic, and positive person. And this does wonders for your mental health. And as a result, you're able to build closer and stronger connections to yourself and to your friends and to your loved ones. And this can greatly improve your social health. And so when we maintain that trinity of mental, physical, and social health, we end up living longer, healthier lives, avoid legal, social, or personal health problems that we don't need to deal with. And altogether, we increase our chances of life success. And I'm not just talking about money success, but overall. Just as a wrap up, our bodies are complex biological machines, and our health doesn't just revolve around physical health. It's also really important that we take into consideration our mental health. And secondly, good health doesn't just happen to us. We have to be consistently involved in practicing healthy behaviors and preventing or avoiding unhealthy behaviors. Now, when we use unhealthy coping methods like substances, drugs, or alcohol, or when we tend to self-isolate or run from our problems, we're not really taking care of these problems. We're just damaging our health for a short-term moment of temporary relief. And lastly, always remember, if you are struggling with mental health illness or mental health problems, there's always people that you can reach out to, even if it's a trusted friend or a teacher. But there are trained, certified professionals who are always willing to help as well. You are never alone, and you never have to struggle alone. Always remember that. And so I'd like to leave this page up for those of you who might need these resources. And as always, I'll also post these in the description of the video. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us at LAHC. Our number and email is at the bottom down there. If you think you need more resources or if you just need advice, our phone number is 888-315-5242, or you can reach us by email at info@lahc.org. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I was able to teach you something valuable. You are very important, so please make sure that you're always taking care of yourself. I will see you all next week for our lesson on self-image and self-improvement. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy.